Hey, this is Yelena with Black Sheep 303 Creative, and my project today is a Christmas in July card. I'm posting this July 31st, 2020, so I got it just under the wire. It is the very first Slimline card I've ever done, and I kind of love it. However, it did become a lot more complicated than I had anticipated, so this video is kind of long because I'm going to go over 3 different things. So first off, we're looking at the Sunday Drive set of dies from Spellbinders. This is the original set. It makes the car, and it comes with some balloons, and you can see this card that my friend Kim made me. Hey Kim, it's such a cute card. With the original car, it makes a present. It's got those cute balloons with it and the letters. Just amazing. Now the rest of them are add-ons. So this is the Sunday Drive Etched set that makes a wedding card. So it adds some extra flowers. It's got the word Etched. It's got those cans that you can tie to the bumper. And then this is brand new in July. It is the Sunday Drive with Santa set that lets you add Santa and a reindeer and some other items to the car. And this one is also brand new, and it is the Halloween Sunday Drive. And it has like a skeleton and a witch and some other fun stuff for the garland, as well as new greetings that all work with the original set. Now today we're going to be using the Sunday Drive with Santa and the original Sunday Drive set. So on the left here we've got all the die cuts from the original set, and then on the right is all the die cuts from the new set that I'll be using in this project. Now you can see it really is very, very detailed. Like every little component of this car is an individual die cut once you die cut them out. As you can tell, like the steering wheel, the mirrors, the brake lights, the fender, the tires. I also cut out 3 sets of presents out of a variety of sort of Christmas pattern paper, so I had some options. And then on the Christmas set, that is the background of the saying, and then you connect those 2 dies together to get the saying cut out that goes on top. This is foliage for the Christmas garland, trim for Santa's suit, flowers for the garland, and then Santa's like arm and shoulders, his hat, and a little glove there. And you can see they are tiny, tiny little pieces. So I always keep the packaging that came with these dies because it is just, I don't know, too hard to figure it out on your own. Like I use that picture every time as a reference when I assemble these. Now I am going to assemble the entire car. So if you ever want to make this card or make the car for another card, you could use this as a reference. It is going to be fairly lengthy because we have a lot of pieces to stick together. But as you saw there, if you wanted to skip the entire assembly and you don't want to watch me glue every single piece together, you can skip to 1027 and go to the ink blending. But let's talk about all these little pieces. Now I would say there are a couple tools that are absolutely vital in order to be able to put this together without wanting to kill yourself. And that is some good liquid glue with a fine tip on it. I am using the Art Glitter Glue with their fine precision tip, I think it's called, that fits on the bottle and makes very tiny little dots of glue. And then I'm also using a tweezers, which is also extremely important for putting everything together. So I use that tweezers. This is the Elizabeth Craft Designs fine point tweezers. I use it for virtually every project that I make. It is the best tweezers I've ever owned. I absolutely love it because it's super, super pointy and picks up just the tiniest little pieces with ease. So I love that tweezers and highly recommend it. So you can see it's just a matter of kind of layering pieces together, gluing them together until you eventually come up with this very, very detailed car. It's so cool. You do have to be somewhat patient. I would not recommend this as like a assembly line card. I don't think you'd want to make 50 of these unless you start now and can put one together every night as you watch TV or something. because as you can see, there's a lot of tiny components and there's a fair amount of work. Now I'm looking at the new Christmas set picture to figure out how to put these together. This is Santa's shoulders and his arm. I'm putting the trim on his suit, and then I will add the little glove. And you can see how tiny some of those pieces are, and so that's why having a really fine tip on your glue is important, as well as those tiny tweezers. They save me every time. Now, it did take me overall a little less than 20 minutes to put this entire thing together. So as I was saying, it's not a card that you probably want to make many of, but a few, it's definitely worth it, because this is really a showstopper. Like when you receive a card with one of these on it, it's so cool. I mean, if you send one to somebody, they are going to absolutely be amazed at how you did this, because it's so detailed and just the cutest thing ever, in my opinion. So let me talk about the cardstock I'm using. For the pink metallic, because, he has to have a pink Cadillac, right? For a tropical Christmas. That is from Tonic Studios. And then the white is just plain Neenah Solar White. The light green cardstock is Jelly Bean Green from Gina K. The black is Black Onyx, also from Gina K. The red is my new very favorite Christmas red, which is Cranberry from Concord and Ninth. And the green for the foliage is Clover, also from Concord and Ninth. So a nice variety of papers. And I wouldn't use, the paper I'm using is all 80 pound, although the metallic might be a little heavier than that. I wouldn't go too much heavier than that, just because there are a lot of layers of cardstock going together here, and so if you got too thick of a cardstock, you might get super bulky, which I would not recommend. And so as you can see, it's your choice to put this garland together. Like you can leave just that centerpiece alone and add the extra branches elsewhere, or not at all, to have like a shorter garland, or you can connect them like I have and put them all the way across the back of the car. Now it's Christmas, so I gotta have some glitter. So I pulled out my Spectrum Noir clear sparkle marker, and I'm adding that to the trim on Santa's jacket and hat, as well as the cover of the convertible that's folded down. And now I'm just gonna put the bows on the presents. So really simple. You can use as many as you want. You can use them vertically, you can use them horizontally, lots of options there. And now to put his head on his neck, this very tiny bit of paper that overlaps each piece. So again, I just want to emphasize the very tiny amount of glue, and the tiny fine point tip on any liquid glue is well worth it, just because you're putting such a small line of glue to hold those items in place. But it works. I think as you kind of layer them together, they sort of start to support each other, and that helps keep the entire thing together. But a good quality glue is important. Now I decided to use presents instead of a reindeer, but they do have a reindeer in the set, which you could use instead, so another super cute option. You do have to remember to put anything that's going in the car, like sitting in the car, has to be put on before you put the windshield on, so don't forget that. I did use the picture to figure out placement, like where his head should be in relationship to the rearview mirror, because that's a little tricky. Now I'm going to put the little garland on, and it's just getting all Christmassy and cute. And I love the versatility of these sets. Even though the add-ons are themed, they do have elements in them that you could mix and match between each set to make potentially different themed cards. You wouldn't necessarily have the saying that would fit in the license plate or the back panel of the car, but I'm sure you can improvise with other stamps or dies that you have for other sets to make different themed cards with this set, and I'm positive they will come out with more, because this is a total like full set syndrome set for me, because I just can't get over how cute it is, and every single thing that gets added on, I just have to have it because it's amazing. So lastly, we're going with the little rear view mirror, and then I will have the flowers that go on the garland, and that will basically complete Santa in his cute little convertible. So not too bad. You do have to be, as I mentioned, slightly patient, but overall it's a great, great result. Now I do take a DR5 Spectrum Noir marker and very carefully color in the brake lights with it. You could also die cut that out of red cardstock and silver cardstock and then just, you know, inlay the red for the brake lights too. Super cute. Okay, and now we've got the second complicated step, which is ink blending a sunset. I'm using Distress Oxides and Concord and 9th white cardstock. I've drawn a little horizon line there lightly in pencil. And I'm using my life-changing blender brushes. And I'm just going to go sort of yellow, orange, pink, blue, purple, black for this sunset. So I'm making basically the sun right in the middle along the horizon line. And then I'm going to go, so that was squeezed lemonade. Then I'm going to go into carved pumpkin and start blending this around this and slightly over the squeezed lemonade. Now, if you're intimidated by the whole ink blending thing, I want to point out that the paper you use can make a huge difference. Like this is Concord and 9th's white, which is different from all their other cardstocks. It's super smooth. It makes the blending really easy. I also think that the medium that you use makes a huge difference. So as most of us know by now, Distress Oxides are amazing and probably better than anything else in terms of blending. But the two things combined with some good blender brushes really, really makes a difference. Now you do have to be somewhat patient and blend over your sort of splotches, at least the ones, this is how I do it, because it starts out pretty splotchy, but then as I keep working it, it gets better and better. Now this doesn't take forever. It was probably 15 minutes total on this whole thing, but not too bad. And the result is really worth the effort. It's just super, super cool and fun. So that pink was picked raspberry, and now I'm going into chipped sapphire, and I'm just working this over and over until I get it mostly smooth. It's not super smooth right now, but I'm going to blend the picked raspberry into it to sort of smooth out the transition. I do that with each color. And this creates a beautiful purple color, which I think really is what makes this read nicely as a sunset. It's sort of that blend from yellow into the blue. Now I'm going to use Dusty Concord just at the very top. And this is going to seem a little weird at first because it's going to be lighter than the blue. And really you want the sky to be darkest at the top as it moves away from the sun, obviously. But what the purple does is I use it underneath. So I'm covering this with chipped sapphire now. What it does is it creates a different tone in the sky. It kind of darkens it down, and it really adds some depth to the top of the sky by doing that purple underneath. It's subtle, but it is there. And then the final touch is always to add black soot. Just around the edges, like the very top, and maybe a little bit on the edges, and then a tiny bit over the whole thing, possibly. Like I'm very lightly going over the whole blue section with the black soot, just to darken that area down. And then I'll go back to the chipped sapphire here and kind of smooth it out again, and very lightly go over the whole thing, like very lightly. So you really don't see it, but it does kind of help blend it together, like just very subtly. And then I'll go back and I'll sort of blend each color together again to smooth it out, and that will be the completed background sunset. And I really loved it. Now this is my very, very favorite new technique for making stars, and it might work for snow too. I have ripped a paper towel into like sort of a dome shape to cover the bottom of the sunset, and now I'm taking Dina Wakley's gloss spray in white. I'm going to add some water here. I'm actually going to add too much water, but it turned out to be a happy accident, because so now I'm going to mix it together with a fan brush. The fan brush is important. And I'm going to just tap it on over the cardstock. Now I want more stars towards the top than towards the bottom, as it would be as you see the night sky. You don't see the stars as they go towards the sun, but you see more as it gets darker. And now I'm adding more paint for the gloss spray, less water, and so you see the stars more. And now those have dried, and I'm going to add some liquid stardust from Lawn Fawn using the same technique over the top. and it just adds this really subtle shimmer to it, which makes the prettiest stars in the sky. Like, it's unbelievable. And then I will also just tap a tiny bit over the bottom portions as well, just for a little extra shimmer. Now for my scene elements, I use the palm tree dies from Elizabeth Craft Designs. I use the leaves, the coconuts, and the trunks. And then I have a piece of sandy beach cardstock from Gina K Designs that I've cut into like a, sand dune sort of shape. And I am going to add some detailing to this with my Spectrum Noir markers just by dotting them over the top. So the colors I am dotting with are EB2, TN3, and MB1 to kind of get some color differentiation to make it look like sand. And then with my tree trunks, I'm using TN5 here on the sides of each of them. So I'm only going on one side, like the outer edge on each side of the trunks. And then I'll use TN7 to go over the embossed lines on it to sort of make the separations in the trunk. For my palm leaves, I use AG3 initially and kind of just darken in the centers of the palms, because if you think about it, these are all going to be backlit, so the edges are going to be lighter than the centers. And then I'm going to go over the embossed lines with JG3 to sort of emphasize the details in them. All right, so I've got my elements here, and I did add a little extra antique bronze Spectrum Noir metallic marker, tiny dots of that on the beach, the sandy beach. I cut out the shooting star out of the center of my night sky using the Starry Skies die set from Lawn Fawn. Super cute. I needed something there, and there you can see the shine a little bit. I did change out the plate on the back of the truck from jelly bean green in the back to grass green, which is also what I used for the palm trunks. Just for the extra contrast, it made it easier to read. And one last thing that I did to my palm leaves, see, I told you this is getting complicated, is I took LG3, which was lighter than the other two markers and closer to the cardstock color, and I just kind of went over the original coloring that I did to blend it out a little bit better with the cardstock, so there wasn't such a stark contrast between the coloring and the cardstock itself, and it actually looks kind of watercolory, which is pretty cool. All right, and this is a Gina K Designs heavyweight white card base, and then I've got a splotch of Nuvo Aqua Shimmer or Tonic Aqua Shimmer pen in Midas Gold. That card base, I cut a piece of the heavyweight white cardstock from Gina K to 8.5 by 7, and then I scored it at 3.5 on the 7 side, so it is 3.5 by 8.5 when folded. And now I'm just using my liquid adhesive to adhere the sunset down to the front of the card, so that splotch of Midas touch shows through the star in the sky. So kind of subtle, but I really like it. Now I'm going to line up the bottom, or my top, I guess, of my sand dune with the bottom of the sunset. I want to cover most of the yellow on the edges, but I want to leave the sun visible in the middle because that's kind of important to get the feel of the sunset. So the piece does wind up running off the edge, and I'll trim that off later. Now, I did outline the hat and hair on Santa just to make those a little bit more visible, because they were kind of fading together as white on white elements sometimes do. And I'm going to stick the card right about there. And now I've decided where I'm going to put my palm trees, and so I'm just again using my liquid adhesive to adhere these down. And as you can see, I am running them purposely off the sides of the card because I wanted this to look like he was driving through like a palm grove on a beach, that kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about. Make it obviously tropical without being too crazy. And now I'm gluing down the car and just leaving that in place for, I don't know, maybe a minute. It wasn't very long. And now I'm just trimming off the extra pieces that hang over the sides of the card. And that will make most of my scene and most of the card complete. Now, I told you this was complicated. Okay, so we got one more step, and that is adding the shadow behind the car. Now, if you think about it, the car is going to be backlit because it's driving into the sun. So realistically, that car is going to be pretty dark. Like, you're not really going to see it from the angle that we're looking at it. And same with the palm trees as well. So I'm taking a lot of artistic license here, given that you can really see the car and the palm trees. But, you know, that is what it is. And I'm okay, so these are the centers of the little flowers. Those are Tonic Nouveau glitter drops in honey gold. And then I just kind of spend, well, probably more than I should have, blending out the shadow, trying to get it to look fairly realistic. I did use my ice grays, so it's IG1, IG2, IG3, and IG4. And finally I got it the way I liked it. And that is finally, at long last, the completed project. Now, I know this was long. If you hung with me the whole way, thank you so much. Look at that cute car. Is that card not the cutest thing? I mean, obviously it's got to be like a special card for somebody, but it's so worth it. So cute. And I'm kind of liking the whole Slimline card thing. I don't know, I might go a tiny bit bigger next time, but pretty cool. So thank you so much for watching. I hope at least one of those techniques will be helpful to you in the future on one of your cards. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked this video and leave me a comment. I love hearing from you and I am responding to them now. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe, and you can follow me on Instagram at blacksheep303. Please take care and have a great day. Thanks.